Melvin Magoo Barcliff, born July 12, 1973, died August 13, 2023. The 1990s hip-hop scene was a battlefield where only the most unique, skillful, and culture-defining artists survived. It was an era of legends, Jay-Z, Nas, the Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, and Outkast, where every artist had to carve out a distinct sound or be swallowed by the competition. In the middle of it all stood Magoo, an artist with one of the most recognizable voices in rap, but not for the reasons you'd hope. Born Melvin Barcliff, Magoo found himself in a rare position, surrounded by two of the most influential figures in hip-hop and R&B, Timbaland and Missy Elliott. Together, they formed one of the most innovative sounds of the late 90s, pushing hip-hop production into futuristic territory with off-kilter drum patterns, spacey synths, and bouncy bass lines. Timbaland and Magoo's 1997 debut album, Welcome to Our World, rode that wave to platinum status, fueled by hits like Up Jumps the Boogie and their undeniable chemistry with Missy. But while Timbaland's production was celebrated, Magoo's contributions were met with something far less flattering: ridicule. His voice, a nasally, high-pitched delivery that many compared to Q-Tip's, but without the same finesse, quickly became an easy target. Critics and fans alike dismissed him as a weak link in the otherwise legendary collective. Even as hip-hop transitioned into the 2000s, with Timbaland's production elevating artists like Aaliyah, Justin Timberlake, and Jay-Z, Magoo struggled to find his place. Unlike his peers, he never dropped a solo album. By the time Indecent Proposal in 2001 and Under Construction Part 2 in 2003 arrived, the sharp decline was impossible to ignore. The magic had faded, and so had Magoo's presence in the rap game. It wasn't about his voice. A deeper look at Magoo's career reveals a talent who, despite having all the right connections, saw his potential fall painfully short. Was he simply not good enough, or was there something bigger at play? His story isn't just about a rapper who didn't make it. It's about how even in the perfect environment, an artist can still struggle to find their footing. Magoo's time in the spotlight, although brief, his place in hip-hop history, for better or worse, remains. But for these reasons, he never blossomed into the respected rapper he believed himself to be. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, StuntedGrowthMusic. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Magoo was born Melvin Barcliff in Norfolk, Virginia, and came up in the local hip-hop scene during the early 90s. He linked up with Timothy Mosley, better known as Timbaland, forming a duo that would eventually break into the mainstream. The two shared a vision for music that was different from anything at the time, blending Timbaland's futuristic beats with Magoo's playful, Q-Tip-influenced flow. Their big break came through Devontae Swing of Jodeci, who mentored them under his Swing Mob collective. That connection led to collaborations with Missy Elliott, Genuine, and Aaliyah, putting them in the right place at the perfect time. In 1997, Welcome to Our World went platinum, giving Magoo his biggest moment in hip-hop. But while Timbaland's production only grew in stature, Magoo's career stalled. By the early 2000s, he had faded into obscurity, never reaching the solo potential many assumed would follow. Stunt number 1, a voice that worked against him. In hip-hop, a unique voice can be an artist's greatest weapon. It can make them instantly recognizable, helping them stand out in a crowded industry. But for Magoo, his voice became more of a curse than a gift. From the moment he hit the mainstream, fans and critics alike couldn't get past his high-pitched, nasally delivery. His style drew constant comparisons to Q-Tip of A Tribe Called Quest, but without the same lyrical dexterity or charisma to back it up. Instead of being seen as an original artist with a distinctive tone, Magoo was often dismissed as a cheap imitation or worse, an outright joke. In an era where rap was becoming more aggressive and street-focused, his voice didn't command the same level of respect as a DMX, Jay-Z, or Nas. Even in the playful, eccentric world of Timbaland and Missy Elliott, where innovation thrived, Magoo's delivery never felt like it fit. Beyond the sound of his voice, his flow and cadence also worked against him. His rhymes often felt simple, lacking the intricate wordplay or storytelling ability that defined the greatest rappers of his time. While Timbaland's beats were groundbreaking, Magoo's contributions didn't add enough to elevate the songs beyond the production. This left him in a tough spot. His voice made him memorable, but not in the way a rapper hopes to be. The result was that no matter how successful the music around him was, Magoo's presence was always seen as a weak link. He had the connections, the platform, and the exposure, but in a genre built on voice, delivery, and presence, his stood out for all the wrong reasons. In the unforgiving world of hip-hop, once that perception sticks, it's nearly impossible to shake. Stunt number 2, stuck in Timbaland's shadow. Rap duos thrive when both members bring something special to the table. Outkast had Andre 3000's eccentric genius balanced by Big Boy's smooth southern cool. Clips had Pusha T's menacing lyricism matched by Malice's introspective wisdom. But when it came to Timbaland and Magoo, the balance was off from the start. Timbaland was the clear star, a once-in-a-generation producer, revolutionizing hip-hop and R&B. Magoo never had the chance to develop a strong identity beyond being Timbaland's partner. Being next to greatness can be a gift or a curse. For Magoo, it was mostly the latter. Timbaland was pushing the boundaries of sound in the late 90s, working with Aaliyah, Missy Elliott, Genuine, and later some of the biggest pop acts of the 2000s. His beats were so innovative that they overshadowed almost any rapper on them. When Jay-Z rapped over Timbaland's production, it was legendary. When Magoo did, it felt underwhelming by comparison. Timbaland's rise meant Magoo was rarely a priority. After Welcome to Our World went platinum in 1997, their follow-up albums Indecent Proposal in 2001 and Under Construction Part 2 2003 didn't capture the same magic. By that time, Timbaland had fully transitioned into a super producer, crafting hits for Justin Timberlake, Nelly Furtado, and Ludacris. Magoo, however, was left without a solid foundation to stand on. Unlike Missy Elliott, who had the talent to hold her own as a solo act, Magoo never had that moment of artistic independence. He wasn't a producer, he wasn't an elite lyricist, and he didn't have the personality to command attention outside of Timbaland's orbit. As Timbaland's career skyrocketed, Magoo faded into the background. Without his own musical identity, he was always seen as an afterthought, never a main event. And in hip-hop, being forgettable is often worse than being bad. Stunt number 3, no clear role in hip-hop. Every successful artist fits into a role within hip-hop's landscape. Some are storytellers, some are lyricists, some dominate with energy and charisma, and others thrive as hitmakers. Even artists who weren't the most skilled found ways to leave an impact, whether through personality, unique styles, or cultural influence. Magoo, however, never had a defined role that made him essential to the genre. When he first arrived with Timbaland, his voice made him stand out, but it wasn't tied to a strong identity. He wasn't a battle rapper or a street artist. He wasn't known for deep lyrics or storytelling. He wasn't a club anthem rapper, and he didn't fit into the conscious or experimental lanes either. He existed within the playful, futuristic world that Timbaland was building, but outside of that, he didn't have a distinct lane of his own. Other artists from the same circle found ways to stand out. Missy Elliott had a bold, unpredictable style that made her one of hip-hop's most unique figures. Timbaland was revolutionizing production. Even Genuine had a clear role as an R&B star. Magoo, on the other hand, didn't have a defining element that made him necessary in the industry beyond his connection to Timbaland. As hip-hop evolved, artists needed something that made them irreplaceable. Even rappers who weren't lyrical giants found ways to carve out a lane. Nelly had melodic flows, Ludacris had animated charisma, and 50 Cent had a compelling street narrative. Magoo had none of those defining traits. He rapped, but he wasn't seen as an elite MC. He had fun energy, but it didn't translate into a standout persona. He had success, but it wasn't because of anything only he could do. Without a clear artistic role, Magoo became replaceable. And in hip-hop, once the industry moves on, there are no guarantees it ever looks back. All in all, Magoo's career is a rare example of having all the right opportunities but still falling short of expectations. He was surrounded by legends, part of an era where hip-hop was evolving at a rapid pace and had the backing of one of the most influential producers of all time. But in the end, his voice made him a target, his role in Timbaland's shadow kept him from standing out, and his lack of solo evolution sealed his fate. Unlike many of his peers, Magoo never got the chance to rewrite his story. He faded out the industry quietly, never releasing a solo album, never attempting a comeback, and never proving critics wrong. Whether he was underrated or simply not built for the spotlight is still debated, but one thing is certain, his time in hip-hop was brief, leaving behind a name more remembered for its shortcomings than its impact. He sadly passed away at 50 years old in 2023, the cause of death yet to be known. Rest in peace, salute, much respect, but for these reasons, his growth was stunning. It's your boy JC, StuntedGrowthMusic, and I'm out.